All right, guys, welcome to government. So this is our first unit on the foundations of government. So let's begin with the functions of government. So government is an institution in which leaders use power to make and enforce laws. Governments set priorities and they make decisions and they maintain order by enforcing laws. Governments provide public services and promote public health and safety. Governments also provide national security to protect the people against external threats. And governments protect the economic security of their people and may provide assistance to those in need. So the differences between a nation, a state, and a country can be very minimal. A nation is a large group of people united by common bonds of race, language, custom, or religion. A state and a country are both political communities that occupy a definite territory and have an organized government. A state has sovereignty, which means that its government makes and enforces its own laws. States in today's political world share four essential features: population, territory, sovereignty, and government. So using this definition, the United States is basically united many countries. So each state within the United States has its own government. We have state governments. We also have our local governments. So within the United States, we have one national government that maintains all the states. But at any point, it is possible that a state could declare themselves their own country. There would probably be a war for it, but they do have that ability under that definition. So let's look at this really quick first because we talked about it. So the essential features of a state, as we said just a few seconds ago: population, territory, sovereignty, and government. So population, states have to have people, because if you don't have people, you don't really have a government. Without them, there's no one to govern and no real reason for a state to exist. States and their populations have unique cultures, histories, traditions, and values. Then you have territory. A state has to have established boundaries. You have to know where that state is. So, for example, the borders of the United States are recognized by its citizens, its neighbors, and the international community. The exact shape of political boundaries is often a source of conflict among states. Territorial boundaries may change as a result of war, negotiations, or purchase. Sovereignty is the key characteristics of a state. Political sovereignty means the state has supreme and absolute authority within its boundaries. Now, that definition is why the states are under the United States, because they don't have supreme authority, which we're going to learn about when we talk about the Constitution. The national government is above the state governments, so they don't have supreme authority, which is why individual states are not considered states right now. If they break off from the United States and declare themselves their own country, then they would have complete sovereignty. It has complete independence and power to make laws and foreign policy and determine its course of action. In theory, at least, no state has the right to interfere with the internal affairs of another state. States must have someone in charge, which is government. A government makes and enforces its own laws for its own people. Government provides leadership, maintains order, provides public services, offers defense and security, and makes decisions about how to establish economic security for its people. Now, there are four theories about the origins of the state. So the four, which means origins of the state means how countries are made. Excuse me. Evolutionary theory suggests that the idea of state evolved from the structure of ancient family groups. So that just means there was a large group of people in an area. So it naturally evolved into one family became like the head or the rulers of the area or the people they went to for advice. And so eventually that just became like the head of the group, which is often how it's found in Native American tribes. According to force theory, states emerged when people needed to cooperate to survive, and one person or a group took control. Now, with force theory, that's often by a military overthrow. There's some kind of violence involved. That's why it's called force. It's an overthrow, it's violent. The divine right theory refers to European rulers who proclaimed that their right to rule came from God alone. So God came and whispered in their ear that you are the supreme ruler of this land. So it's the divine right theory. And then Thomas Hobbes, who we're going to learn about, developed the social contract theory, in which people gave up their freedom to the state in return for order and security. And that's how the United States came about, through social contract. So let's see. So let me see if I can make this bigger. So scholars have developed different theories explaining how the earliest governments developed. So now we're going to look and do a quick little activity. A leader emerged to rule over a family. As extended families grew to include hundreds of people, these groups needed more organization. So this resulted in the formation of government. So now think in your head, would that be the divine right theory? That says God says you're the king. Evolutionary theory just came about. Social contract theory, where the people agree to give up some rights for order and security. Or force theory, which is violent. So it says extended families grew to include hundreds of groups and they needed more organization, resulted in the formation of government. So that's going to be the evolutionary theory. People needed to cooperate to defend themselves against outside threats. One person or a small group took control. Strong leaders used violence and threats to bring people under their authority. So think in your mind, is that going to be divine right, which is God says, social contract, we agree to give up some rights for order and security, or force theory, which is violence. So it's going to be force theory because violence and threats. All right, we got two more. People believe that a god or gods selected their leader. Well, there's our key words, God or gods. These leaders ruled states devoted to serve the demands of God or many gods. Opposing the ruler meant opposing God. So which do you think it is, divine right or social contract theory? It's divine, whoops. Yeah, divine right. So that leaves our last one, which has to be social contract theory. So let's read it. The state developed to protect and serve the governed. People gave up their freedom to the state in exchange for order and security. Hey, we got them all right. All right, so now I'm going to show you. Where did it close? A video. Oh, here it is. This is a country gaining its independence. Oh, make sure my volume's on.
People in Scotland to vote for independence begins today. The campaign's calling on voters to put Scotland's future in Scottish hands. The Scottish National Party is playing a leading role in the Yes Scotland campaign, which will include other smaller parties, celebrities and businesses. A referendum on whether to end the 305-year-old union with England is expected to be held in 2014.
Which way should Scots vote? A referendum to decide the country's future is on the way.
I'm just wondering if you have a few minutes to discuss independence.
SNP supporters have long been rehearsing their arguments, and now the start of the official campaign, bringing together other pro-independence supporters.
The campaign of independence will be a broad church. People will have different policies on what an independent Scotland could look like, but fundamentally, everyone will be united on the fact that we would be better off as an independent country, and we'll run a very inclusive, positive campaign that makes it so.
The Yes campaign is launching just a short distance from the Union Canal, but uniting the pro-independence forces may be tricky. There's likely to be manoeuvring and differences over issues such as NATO and the monarchy. So will floating voters be swayed?
I will still vote yes. I think it's, from a historical perspective, it's time Scotland went back to its own.
No real sort of opinion either way. Like, I need to decide. Like, I need to hear what both sort of sides are.
I would just say it's not really the wisest moves. I don't see what they would really achieve by becoming an independent country.
Those who believe Scotland is better off in Britain will launch their campaign next month. With the referendum not likely till 2014, the biggest challenge for opposing sides may be ensuring voters don't switch off. Lorna Gordon, BBC News, Edinburgh.
Let's get more on this now from our Scotland correspondent, James Cook, who's in Edinburgh for us. James, one of the things that occurred to me during Laura's report was to wonder how many people at the moment are undecided in Scotland on this issue.
Well, a new poll has been published this morning, which was commissioned by the fledgling No campaign, which it appears is going to be led by the Labour Chancellor, former Labour Chancellor Alistair Darling. And that suggests that the number is lower than you might expect. 10% undecided is the figure that poll has come up with 33% in favour of independence and 57% against, which really goes to show that the people launching their campaign here today in a cinema in Edinburgh have quite a lot of work to do, but they would point out that it's still 2.5 years away, this referendum, and that they say they're not too worried about the polls now, and that they will push forward and try to persuade people through what they're describing as a community-based campaign, a campaign that's trying to reach out and persuade people that Scots in Scotland are best placed to make their own decisions about the future.
And what are the key issues? Are they economic?
Well, surely the economy will be a huge issue in this campaign. I'm sure that's right. But I think what's going to happen today is that there's going to be a bit of a debate about what is policy and what independence actually means as a concept. So, for example, the SNP might talk about keeping the pound, keeping the monarchy. At the moment, the SNP's position is that Scotland would leave NATO, although that is a position that is quite possible might change between now and the referendum, which is expected in autumn 2014. But today, as this campaign is broadened out to other groups, the question will be how much of a split is there on some of these issues? Do people agree? For example, we expect here today the First Minister Alex Salmond to share a stage with Patrick Harvie, the leader of the Scottish Green Party. Now, Mr Harvie is not in favour of keeping the monarchy, so there right at the outset is what you might call a split. I suppose the Yes campaign would suggest that it's not about splits, it's about a diversity of opinion, and that many different shades of opinion can be reflected in this campaign. But just a word on who we expect here in this Edinburgh cinema today. I understand that we will have contributions from the actors Martin Compston, Alan Cumming and Elaine C. Smith, among others, as this campaign gets underway.
James, many thanks. We look forward to it.
All right, and spoiler alert, Scotland still is part of England. All right, so now what you're going to do is make sure that you have completed the Welcome to Government module. And remember, we talked about marking things done if it says mark done, what score you have to make in order to get a badge. Now, that doesn't mean to pass. It just means to get the badge. And you've taken the pre-test on Edgenuity and the Foundations and Origins pre-test. Otherwise, these assignments will not open up. So make sure you're doing the reading essentials. Now with the reading essentials, and give you directions, complete the assignment below by clicking Edit Document in the right portion of the Word screen. So here's your Edit Document button. Edit to make quick changes, or you can open it in the full Microsoft Word app on your computer. But if you make the changes here, then it automatically submits to me when you're done. And you can make changes. You can also use, let's see, should be able, nope. All right, so before you click the Edit Document button, if you want it to be read to you, and clearly I spelled essentials wrong. I'm going to fix that before I submit this to you guys. You can click the immersive reader, and it will read it to you. Click play.
Reading Essentials and Study Guide. Chapter 1, Foundations of Government. Lesson 1.
So you see that it'll read it to you. And then you can go back and click edit document. And then you don't have to do anything to submit because it'll just automatically submit to me. And then if you click the next button down here, it'll go to your discussion question. Remember to click the reply button to get the box to pop up. And don't Google this. Remember we talked about plagiarism and copying and pasting from the internet. Instead, what I want you to do is go back into the reading essentials, and that will help you answer these questions. That's the purpose. And then you have the purpose and origins of government quiz. You can see that you have 2 attempts, and it keeps your highest attempt. And the last thing due today is to complete the Introduction to Government module on Edgenuity, and your grade is a combination of the assignment and the quiz. If you have questions, let me know. You can send me a message on MS Teams. You can shoot me an email. I do look at the emails on here, or you can send me a text message. All right, guys, good luck.